Assembly will come to order. The Chief Clerk will call the roll.
Assemblywoman Anderson, Assemblywoman Benitez-Thompson, Assemblywoman Black, Assemblywoman Bilbray Axelrod, Assemblywoman Brown May, Assemblywoman Carlton, Assemblywoman Cohen, Assemblywoman Considine, Assemblywoman Dickman, Assemblywoman Duran, Assemblyman Ellison, Assemblyman Flores, Assemblywoman Gonzalez, Assemblywoman Gorlow, Assemblyman Hathen, Assemblywoman Hanson, Assemblywoman Hardy, Assemblywoman Howdigi, Assemblywoman Kasama, Assemblywoman Krasner, Assemblyman Levitt, Assemblywoman Martinez, Assemblywoman Marzola, Assemblyman Matthews, Assemblyman MacArthur, Assemblywoman Brittany Miller, Assemblyman C.H. Miller, Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno, Assemblywoman Nguyen, Assemblyman O'Neill, Assemblyman Orentlicker, Assemblywoman Peters, Assemblyman Roberts, Assemblywoman Summers Armstrong, Assemblywoman Thomas, Assemblywoman Titus, Assemblywoman Tolles, Assemblywoman Torres, Assemblyman Watts, Assemblyman Wheeler, Assemblyman Yeager, Assemblywoman Black, Assemblywoman Kasama, Speaker Frierson.
Here, Assemblywoman Benitez-Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. May the record reflect that we have 41 members present.
There are 41 members present. There is a quorum. The Assembly will please rise for the prayer by Pastor Bruce Henderson of the Airport Road Church of Christ here in Carson City.
Oh, Lord God, here we are in a special session of the Nevada State Legislature. There's something special about that word, special. It appears about 30 times in the Bible. There are special days, special foods, special people, and special sacrifices. In Numbers 29:35, I read, "On the 8th day, hold a closing special assembly and do no regular work." So here we are, indeed, in a special assembly, and we're doing special work. So, Father, please bless us in a special way as we serve our state as you would have us to do. We pray this in your special and holy name. Amen.
Please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Order of Business 2, reading and approval of the journal.
Carson City, Monday,
Mr.
November
Speaker.
15,
Assemblywoman
2020.
Benitez-Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to dispense with further reading of the journal and authorize the Speaker and Chief Clerk to make necessary corrections or additions.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. We're going to skip Order of Business 8 for the time being because there's not anyone to receive any of the motions and resolutions. Can we go to Order of Business 1?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Under Order Business 1, may the record reflect that Assemblywoman Kasama is present.
Thank you. The record shall so reflect. So we will then go to Order of Business 12, general file and third reading.
Senate Bill 1, introduced by the Select Committee on Redistricting and Elections, an act relating to elections revising the districts from which the members of the legislature, members of the State Board of Education, and representatives in Congress are elected, revising the petition districts for certain initiatives or referendums, proposing statewide ballot measures, authorizing the chair of the Legislative Commission to direct the Legislative Council Bureau to contract for professional and other services for certain actions or proceedings relating to election or petition districts and providing other measures properly relating thereto. The people of the state of Nevada represented in Senate and Assembly do enact as follows. Section 1, end of Section 1. Section 24, end of Section 24, end of bill.
Are there amendments to Section 1 of the bill as a whole?
There are none.
Remarks. Assemblywoman Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Senate Bill 1 revises the districts for election of members of the Nevada State Senate and Assembly and representatives in the United States House of Representatives. The measure retains a 21-member Senate. The ideal population in each Senate district is 147,839. The overall range of population deviation is 3.95%. 15 Senate districts are wholly within Clark County, and 2 districts are entirely within Washoe County. 1 district includes the eastern part of the state and parts of Clark County, and another district encompasses all of Carson City, Story County, and a portion of Washoe County. 1 Senate district includes portions of Elko, Eureka, and Washoe counties, and all of Humboldt, Lander, and Pershing counties. Finally, 1 district includes all of Churchill, Douglas, Esmeralda, Lyon, and Mineral counties, and portions of Nye County. The measure also retains a 42-member assembly, with an ideal population in each assembly district of 73,919. The overall range of population deviation is 4.69%. The plan includes 30 assembly districts wholly within Clark County and 6 districts wholly within Washoe County. The remaining 6 districts contain parts of Clark or Washoe counties and the rural counties. All assembly districts are nested within Senate districts, meaning 1 Senate district wholly contains 2 assembly districts. Senate Bill 1 retains a 4-member congressional delegation. The ideal population in each district is 776,154. The overall range of population deviation is 0%. 2 congressional districts are wholly contained in Clark County. A 3rd district contains portions of Churchill, Clark, Lincoln, and Lyon counties, and all of Esmeralda, Mineral, and Nye counties. A 4th district contains portions of Churchill, Lincoln, and Lyon counties, all Washoe County, and all the remaining rural counties in northern Nevada. Finally, Senate Bill 1 authorizes the chair of the Legislative Commission to direct the Legislative Counsel Bureau to contract for professional and other services the director of LCB deems necessary.
Thank you. Any further remarks? Assemblywoman Hardy.
I rise in opposition to SB 1, Order of Business 15.
Order of Business 15.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today in opposition to Senate Bill 1. I understand redistricting is a challenging process for all of us involved, but I find myself deeply troubled by the inability of all members of this body, as well as the public, to meaningfully and actively participate in such an important process, a process that affects every person living in this state. A bill of such magnitude and importance that will literally change who we all represent deserve to be thoroughly vetted and questioned by this body as a whole. Instead, there are a lack of answers to questions posed, an inability to ask questions of those who have the answers, and an overall lack of transparency throughout. What we are doing here is part of our constitutional duty, something that should be clearly explained so that the people of the state of Nevada can understand and participate in what is going on here in this building. I hear from constituents every day who are confused about the special session, confused about the process, and confused as to why their opinions don't seem to matter. It is clear to me that the prevailing focus when it comes to redistricting in general is to use the drawing of boundary lines as a tool for leverage, resulting in a stalemate and flawed progress for effective electoral representation of our constituents. I believe Dan Zybar said it best when he said, "The current state of redistricting and partisan gerrymandering is broken, driven by a struggle to leverage party power and misrepresentation in the basic conception of how legislative districts are designed to represent the interests of citizens. In representing the best interests of my constituent, regardless of their party, I will be voting no, and I urge my colleagues to join me. Thank you."
Thank you. Assemblywoman Krasner.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Order of Business 15.
Order of Business 15.
The process of redistricting is enumerated in the United States Constitution. It is the most sacred principle of a representative democracy, and a fair legislative process is necessary where all citizens are represented by their elected officials. During the hearing on SB 1, I heard multiple people testify in opposition to the bill because they thought it would negatively impact communities of interest and minority groups across the state of Nevada. I love Nevada, and I care about the people who live here. For those reasons, I will be voting no. Thank you.
Thank you. Assemblywoman Tolles.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in opposition of SB 1, Order of Business 15.
Order of Business 15.
Despite the fact that Nevada is the third most diverse state in the U.S., SB 1 actually reduces the number of seats that are representative of specific minority groups. According to the 2020 census data, Latino populations in Clark and Washoe counties surged by 23% and 30% respectively over the last decade. SB 1 reduces the number of districts we currently have, with 40% or more Hispanic representation in both the Assembly and the Senate by 1 seat each. And although the African American population grew 39.4% to 9.8% of the population, SB 1 did not add any new districts to reflect that diversifying of our citizenry. The fast-growing Asian population, which expanded 39.5% to make up 8.8% of Nevada, also lost representation under the new maps in SB 1 from 5 seats to down to 4. Additionally, SB 1 divides the tribal communities of the Reno-Sparks Indian Colony, the Pyramid Lake Paiute Reservation, the Timbishaw Shoshone Reservation, the Stewart Community, and the Washoe Ranches Land Trust in the state legislative maps. SB 1 splits political subdivisions, dividing 7 counties and 21 towns in the Assembly maps alone. It also breaks up communities of interest by splitting homeowners associations and general improvement districts that have independent governing boards, dues, and enforcement authority, but will have to advocate for representation on complex state policy between different senators and Assembly members. Finally, although SB 1 decreases the number of representative districts for minority and tribal communities, it does increase in one notable area: the Democratic registration advantage in 3 Senate seats and 6 Assembly seats. The most dramatic shifts can be found in my Senate and Assembly district. The district of Bill Raggio, Sue Wagner, Patty Cafferata, Don Gibbons, Heidi Gansert, Brian Sandoval, and Pat Hickey will no longer be a Republican representative seat as it has been for decades, but a seat with a 6.5% Democrat advantage in SD 15 and a 2.7% advantage in AD 25, a whopping 9% swing in a district that showed only a 1% deviation from the ideal population size. These maps do not represent the increasingly diverse populations that have emerged over the past decade in Nevada, the need for unity in political subdivisions and communities of interest, or the concerns of Republicans and the increasing number of nonpartisans across our state. It is for those reasons, and many more, I will be voting no on SB 1, and I urge my colleagues to do the same.
Thank you, Assemblywoman. Assemblywoman Dickman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in opposition to SB 1, Order of Business 15.
Order of Business 15.
With this redistricting plan, my individual Assembly district has become much more favorable, but at the expense of fair representation in nearby districts. So my own personal interest should give me every reason to support this. Yet I'm in strong opposition to what the majority party is about to pass. As I stated in committee testimony, a good bill is one about which no one is truly happy because it is a product of debate and compromise, and no one gets everything they want. This bill is universally disliked, but the reason has nothing to do with compromise because there was none. This bill is fundamentally unfair to our state, to its citizens, and to many of our communities of interest, as we've heard from so many representing those communities. Counties and cities are divided in a manner that's extremely unfair. And then there's the sadly disappointing nature of the process. That's another issue for me. There were so many technical difficulties, people were disenfranchised from participating and making their voices heard. I've received numerous emails from constituents expressing frustration. Finally, I believe this bill should have been debated by a committee of the whole where everyone could have at least been heard. It's our solemn duty as elected representatives to make sure that all of our constituents are considered and taken seriously. Nevada deserves far better than this flawed partisan process, and therefore I'll be voting no. Thank you.
Thank you. Assemblyman O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today in strong opposition to Senate Bill 1. Order of Business 15, Mr.
Order of
Speaker.
Business 15.
I find myself deeply disturbed by what appears to me to be a disenfranchisement of voters in Reno and throughout Washoe County, particularly in the portions of southeastern and western Reno. Additionally, I am disturbed by the lack of legal language and the disproportionate use of maps over the written word. The two should go hand in hand, so voters know not just the what, but the why and the how. My first grade primer had a picture of Jack and Jill along with dog Spot walking up the hill. But there were also words, so I knew and could understand what the action was occurring. When there is an issue on a property line in the courts, they don't use a picture. They use a written description of the plot in question. I've mentioned before, we are dumbing down our state statutes into a comic book with pictures only. The importance of voting districts in Nevada are not a comedy to me. With that, and for those reasons, I urge my colleagues to vote no on Senate Bill 1. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the time.
Thank you. Assemblyman Ellison.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in opposition to SB 1, Order of Business 15.
Order of Business 15.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The new legislative district lines will be voted on today, disfranchising Nevada voters. There were many factors taken into account when they're drawing these boundaries. And many times I've asked who did these boundaries, who made these maps, because we were not part of that issue trying to make the maps to our constituents. So we were disfranchised from that. There are many factors taken into account when drawing the boundaries. But when you look at the lines, Assembly District 33 can be clearly see that reason was not one of those factors. My new district will stretch from Jackpot, Nevada to along the northern Idaho border to the Utah border, to the east and all the way to Pahrump, Nevada, south of the California boundaries. That equals half the state if you cut it in two. This is a total distance of 500 miles and would take approximately 8 hours to drive to Jackpot to Pahrump. To each and every single community in this district, it would take days to travel. You will drive through areas of Nye County, Lincoln County, White Pine County, Elko County. Those are some of the largest counties and landmass in the continental United States. The proposed maps also have unfortunately not kept many key areas in common interest in mind. In my home community, Elko, the western half has been chopped off and put into another district, diluting the representation of the major areas of common interest. Simply put, there has been more efficient ways to carve up a district. Alternate maps created a more complete district that would have compressed all of Elko, White Pine, and Lyon County instead of proposed residents of the new Assembly District 33. Will now consist of parts of 5 counties that make up of a landmass larger than nearly half of America's states. This is not the way residents of rural Nevada deserve to be treated. It is clear that many common accepted standards in redistricting has been ignored. In the process, Nevada will be worse off for the next decade. I would like to, my final state in the Holy Chambers, strongly urge my colleagues to please vote no. But Mr. Chairman, Mr. Speaker, I'd ask that the people in this body consider some of these boundaries that were taken out and carved out to go against an area that has no population but has a large business access to Elko County. And I'd like to have this be reconsidered. If not, I thank you.
Thank you. Assemblywoman Kasama.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in opposition to Senate Bill 1, Order of Business 15.
Order of Business 15.
Throughout this process, many Nevadans have not had their voices heard, or perhaps I should say that many Nevadans have not been listened to. Concerns were expressed and not taken into account or were willfully ignored. Our Hispanic community spoke out en masse against these proposed maps, and their concerns have not been addressed. Their voices are being diluted and their influence ignored. In my new proposed district, many areas just to the west of Assembly District 2's western border in Summerlin have inexplicably been lumped into a district with Pahrump, Nevada, a small rural town 1 hour to the west of the urban population of greater Las Vegas. Simply put, there is no way these two areas should be in the same district. The areas to the west of Assembly District 2 have much more in common with my district than they do the rural residents of Pahrump, Nevada. I believe we need to find a way to keep these areas of common interest together in districts represented by those residing in the greater Las Vegas area. Instead, we see the town of Pahrump split up among two separate assembly districts. Their voices diluted and their interests are not being served. The same can be said for the residents in western Summerlin who are being drawn out of their natural district. It would appear that common sense was not one of the factors used when drawing these proposed maps. It is clear that in the next decade, there will be lots of population growth in these areas of western Summerlin, and they should remain together as a community of interest. It is for these reasons that I urge my colleagues to vote no on Senate Bill 1. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Assemblyman Hafen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Order Business 15.
Order of Business 15.
I rise today in opposition of SB 1. I love this great state of Nevada, just as each and every single one of you do. However, we are forgetting one of the core principles today of not only this state, but of this country, and that is to achieve fair representation. As you have just heard from my colleague from Summerlin, she points out that West Summerlin is now lumped in with Pahrump, and our communities are quite different. Our needs are quite different, and for some reason, the community of Pahrump has been split. I believe that that is going to disenfranchise those voters, so their voice is now limited. I've heard from my constituents numerous times over this process, and they are very, very frustrated and disappointed with this body. And I'm sure some of you have seen some of their comments, and I hope that you would take those into consideration today. It is very clear to myself and my constituents that whoever drew these maps did not step foot in Pahrump. And I would invite whoever drew the maps and anyone who else would like to come, please join me in Pahrump. Walk the community with me. I would love to show you what my community is all about. The other thing I'd like to point out is that we've had several technical difficulties throughout this process where maps were there and then disappeared because additional information and additional data was uploaded. I would have loved to have seen what those maps look like and how those would have addressed some of the concerns that came from my constituents. I'm not going to get into the political gerrymandering that went on. I think that that's been addressed. But I would encourage that every member of this body vote no today. Let's go back to the drawing board. Let's work together as all Nevadans and come up with some fair maps. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Assemblywoman Hanson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in opposition to SB 1. Because of my great respect for this institution, although my indignation is at an all-time high, I have reminded myself of the rules of decorum on this green card, and I promise to comply with that. My colleagues have done an excellent job in drilling down in the micro, and I would like to take this time now to maybe deal with the macro. I brought a friend I know one that we're not unfamiliar with. I just read Alexander Hamilton. I'm a huge fan of the Broadway show and the music and the message, but nothing replaces the incredible words and the deeds that were done by those that have gone before us, the likes of Alexander Hamilton, Jay, and Madison, who we see their words in the Federalist, of which really brings to mind to me as I've dealt with SB1 in a hearing and now here on the floor, that I want to call to mind that the purpose and the reason that we're here is because there is a belief in the separation of powers and that there is a belief in the balance, the checks and balances. In Federalist number 51, and don't despair, I'm not going to read all of Federalist number 51, but to remind us all that within the Federalist 51, the structure of government must furnish the proper checks and balances between the different departments. And this is very apropos to where we are today. A reminder, it is of great importance in a republic not only to guard the society against the oppression of its rulers, but to guard one part of the society against the injustice of the other part. Different interests necessarily exist in different classes of citizens. If a majority be united by a common interest, the rights of the minority will be insecure. One of the founding procedures handed down to us was this legislative body, where we're to be able to have persuasive speech, to give arguments, to have hearings. In our hearings, we had no authors of the maps or the amendment of SB1 to receive or answer our questions. This is a redistricting bill that will change the entire structure of our legislative body for 10 years, not something we can come back in 2 years to fix like we do so many times as part of our legislative duty, but 10 years. A bill that we saw maps for the first time 1 week ago, a bill that was first heard on Friday, 4 days ago, an amendment that was just heard yesterday, a bill of such extreme consequences and importance, and no authors of the bill were identified so that we could ask our questions, and a process that would usually be handled during a 120-day legislative session. We have been told, and we're referred to the listening tours. Are the maps reflective of that? The listening tour that I've participated in these past 4 days show no support and lots of opposition. So today, I look forward to hearing my colleagues that are in support of the bill before us today to please explain their support. I strongly encourage my colleagues who represent 42 districts to vote no and to go back to the drawing board.
Thank you. Senator Matthews.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also rise in opposition to Senate Bill 1, Order Business 15.
Order Business 15.
Thank you. As many of you know, I have already announced publicly that I will not be seeking re-election to this body next year. And so what we do here today will not impact me politically. But it will have a very profound impact on the residents of District 37, the district that I'm honored to represent. And I believe that they and all Nevadans deserve much, much better than what we have here in this bill. And I believe that they deserve much better than the process we have seen these past few days. And as we know, by the proposal that the minority party has put forward this week, we can indeed do better. I will be voting no on this bill, and I urge all of my colleagues in this chamber to join me in doing the same, so that we can go back to the drawing board on this matter of critical importance to our state and its citizens and do the right thing the right way. Thank you.
Thank you. Assemblyman Levitt.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in opposition to this measure, Order of Business 15.
Order Business 15.
Thank you. You know, it never gets old standing in front of this body. I'm truly humbled. I was here over the summer with a group of kids, and I walked into the gallery with those kids, and I had the same feeling that I had when I first walked into this room 4 years ago. And I'm sure all of you feel that every time you walk on this floor, every day that we're here. And it's just a sense of humility and pride. Although I'm grateful for all the members that participated in this process so far, I believe there's still work to be done. As it stands, 1/3 of the population would be represented by 2/3 of this body. Taking nothing away from those of you sitting here today and those of you who will sacrifice and serve in the future, I believe we have the opportunity to minimize disfranchising a large group of Nevada's citizens. We can do better. My hope is that we will do better. And I encourage my colleagues to vote no on this measure. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Assemblywoman Titus.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in opposition to FCB 1, Order of Business 15.
Order of Business 15.
Again, thank you. And before my final comments on my opposition, I want to acknowledge our GIS person, Robin Evans, because I know that we're going to acknowledge all staff later on. And I just wanted to name her and make sure that we acknowledge all the hard work all these folks have done, specifically our person that was assigned to us, and just all the hard work. So not to discredit anybody that's been involved in this process. I just want to point out that this was never about one community or one race. My little half moon removal and place in a different city district was just a good visual for me to point out to folks about how frustrating the process was. And it was changed, and I appreciate that. In the congressional maps, it was changed. But by making a line straighter, can't hide the injustices that have been done to communities of interest and like-minded folks throughout this state. Folks, I believe I'm the only person in this room that has a license to dissect human beings. But I will tell you, SB 1 dissects families, cultures, and communities without remorse. Anyone that has been around me for any length of time is probably tired of hearing me quote Voltaire. Voltaire said that I may not agree with what you're saying, but I would die for your right to say that. I truly believe that. These proposed maps do not allow that basic principle of having a voice and fail the test of reason. Being a civic leader means service to the people and your communities, not a political party. I urge you to vote your conscience and vote no on SB 1. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Assemblywoman Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in support of Senate Bill 1. Order of Business 15.
Order of Business 15.
Nevada's population and demographics have changed rapidly and significantly in the last decade. The maps in SB 1 reflect both our growing population and diversity. These maps keep local communities together, including maintaining representation for rural and northern Nevada. These maps keep tribal communities together. These maps reflect Nevada's increasing racial and ethnic diversity. These maps strive to protect and expand the voting power of African American and Hispanic Nevadans while increasing opportunities for representation for Nevada's emerging and growing AAPI population over the coming decade. These maps are fair and legal and accurately reflect the diversity of our state. I urge my colleagues to vote yes on Senate Bill 1.
Any further remarks? There being none, the Chief Clerk will open the room. Anyone wishing to change their vote? There are 25 ayes, 17 nays. Bill having received the constitutional majority, declare passed and order transmitted to the Senate. We will now go back to Order of Business 8, motions, resolutions, and notices.
Assembly Resolution 3, introduced by Assemblyman Frierson et al. Expressing appreciation to the Assembly staff for their service during the 33rd special session of the Nevada Legislature. Resolved that this resolution becomes effective upon adoption. End of resolution.
Assemblywoman Benitez Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that the Assembly adopt Assembly Resolution Number 3.
Assemblywoman Benitez Thompson moved that the Assembly adopt Assembly Resolution Number 3. Remarks?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This resolution extends appreciation to the Assembly staff for their work during this 33rd special session. Of course, like the rest of us, when we think a special session is looming, it means that everything has to be put on hold thou shalt not travel, thou shalt not leave the state, thou shalt stay close to their cell phone. And that is true for our staff as well. We thank you for everything that we've done. We know that we operate on a skeleton crew, which means you still have 42 legislators having demands and requests of staff. We just have a very limited staff, so I know that means for you an exponential amount of work. We thank you for all of that, and we thank you for the work that you do to shepherd us through this process.
Any further remarks? Assemblywoman Tolles. Did you get it ahead of yourself? Okay. You've heard the motion. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. The resolution is adopted.
Assembly Resolution 4, introduced by Assemblyman Frierson et al., expressing appreciation to the staff of the Legislative Council Bureau for their service during the 33rd Special Session of the Nevada Legislature. Whereas an extraordinary occasion resulting from the global COVID-19 pandemic caused a delay in the completion of the 2020 decennial census, and whereas due to the disruption caused by the COVID-19 pandemic, the United States Census Bureau did not release the 2020 census redistricting data until August 2021, after the adjournment of the 81st legislative session. And whereas the governor called the 33rd Special Session of the Nevada Legislature on November 12, 2021 to consider matters of redistricting and reapportionment. And whereas applying their amazing work ethic, professionalism, and ability to overcome obstacles, the staff of the Legislative Council Bureau were able to meet the demands of the special session to redistrict both legislative houses, the congressional districts and the districts of the State Board of Education and the Board of Regents of the University of Nevada. And whereas Michael Stewart, Director of the Research Division, Haley Proley, GIS Analyst and Redistricting GIS Specialist, Kathy Steinley, Redistricting Specialist and Developer, Asher Killian, Chief Deputy Legislative Counsel, and Samuel Quast, Senior Deputy Legislative Counsel, deserve special recognition for the efficient, impartial, and very professional services they provided while deftly navigating the logistical challenges of redistricting software. And whereas the staff of the Legislative Council Bureau provided services eagerly and professionally, regardless of the time of day or number of hours required to ensure that legislative duties could be completed in a timely and efficient manner. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Assembly of the State of Nevada that the members of the Assembly do hereby express their sincere appreciation to the outstanding employees of the Legislative Council Bureau and commend their dedication, cooperation, excellent work, and willingness to serve the state. And be it further resolved that the Chief Clerk of the Assembly prepare and transmit a copy of this resolution to Brenda J. Erdos, Director of the Legislative Council Bureau, and be it further resolved that this resolution becomes effective upon adoption. End of resolution.
Assemblywoman Benitez Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that the Assembly adopt Assembly Resolution number 4.
Assemblywoman Benitez Thompson has moved the Assembly adopt Assembly Resolution number 4. Remarks?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As our Chief Clerk read the words and the names of this resolution, we want to be sure to thank as well the Legislative Council Bureau. Much like our Assembly staff, they put their lives on hold to be available to serve the state of Nevada for whenever we come into a special session, and it means some interruptions in their life, but we know that they're dedicated to us, they're dedicated to the process, and they really are the ones who serve essential functions of government to make sure that we are faithfully and correctly performing our duties. And so I would encourage everyone's support, and I encourage a great round of applause for our Legislative Council Bureau.
You all heard the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Resolution adopted. Order to enrollment. Assemblywoman Benitez Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If I could go to Order Business 15.
Order Business 15.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I've got some comments. And so while we have just acknowledged our Legislative Council Bureau and all of the staff and the Research Division who helped us with this redistricting process, there's one person in particular that we want to make sure we shine a little bit of light on and give a little bit of love to in this moment, and that's to the Director of the Research Division, Mr. Michael Stewart. Mr. Stewart, if you could stand. So Mr. Stewart has worked on redistricting for 3 different sessions now, in 2000, 2010, and then for this redistricting special session. And he was actually due to retire earlier, but stayed on as staff to help us through this special session, and will be retiring in a few weeks. Now, as head of the research division, one of the things that they do is they produce our proclamations. And so we thought, well, we should give Michael a proclamation, but it would be unfair to ask the research division to do it, because essentially he would be writing his own proclamation. And in fact, he told me, Assemblywoman, I don't want a proclamation. Please don't give me a proclamation. But we legislators wrote one. We asked members to all participate and to come up with writing a proclamation. We said, you can't use staff, and you can't use the research division. You have to go do your own fact-finding for your proclamation. Well, the endeavor didn't go as well as we thought. It kind of turned into a Mad Lib of sorts, but we want to read you your proclamation written by this body. And different people contributed information. So whereas Michael Mary Stewart, I don't think that's correct, was born in Cabo San Lucas in the state of Arkansas in the year of 1995, and whereas Michael Stewart is a proud graduate of McQueen High School, whose motto is "Go Fight, Win Football Regional Championships Forever, Get Over It, Bishop Minogue." I'm sure that's not entirely accurate. Assemblyman Yeager contributed that piece. And whereas Michael Stewart's favorite cocktail is the Long Island iced tea, that is factual, but I don't think it's appropriate, legislators, for this proclamation. But whereas we legislators are sincerely appreciative and thankful to Michael Stewart for giving his time and talents to the Nevada State Legislature since 1996, especially since, as you can plainly see, we legislators really need help producing factual proclamations. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that Michael Stewart, Director of the Research Division of the Nevada Legislative Council Bureau, will retire on December 17, 2021, and be it further proclaimed that Michael Stewart, his kindness, professionalism, and dedication to the state will never be forgotten, dated this date, the 16th of November, 2021. And we have a little gift for you if you want to come over.
Yeah, please don't open that on the floor.
Thank you so much, Mr. Stewart. Mr. Stewart, of course, wants to recognize the research division. And only to make you blush further, we have a little video we'd like to share because Michael has a secret talent, and we think it's so fitting to share this with you all for a moment.
In the sky, you'll get by. the time, you must keep on trying. Smile, what's the use of crying? You'll find that life is still worthwhile if you'll just smile. You must keep on trying. Smile, what's the use of crying now? You'll find that life is still worthwhile. Worthwhile. Smile.
Oh, wow. I'm wondering why, I don't know if we can afford Michael Stewart, but I'm wondering why we haven't had a Home Means Nevada here. Michael, I want to say you're not just our staff, you're a colleague and a friend. And thank you for your years of service and your friendship. We've talked in text about all kind of things, and I am fortunate to have your cell phone. So I know where to find you. Thank you all. Thank you, Michael. Assemblywoman Tolles. Oh, wait, we talked, okay. Any other order of business 15s? We'll go back to order of business 8, now that the Senate is in.
Assembly Concurrent Resolution Number 2, introduced by Assemblyman Frierson et al., Senators Cannizzaro et al., memorializing former state senator and Congressman James Hubert Bilbray. Whereas on September 19, 2021, the state of Nevada lost a devoted and highly distinguished public servant, a man whose legacy continues to enrich his community. And whereas native Nevadan James Hubert Bilbray was born May 19, 1938 at Las Vegas Hospital to Ann and James Bilbray, beginning a lifetime of living in and loving Las Vegas. And whereas Jim's early education began at Las Vegas High School, then Nevada Southern University, which would eventually become UNLV, the home of the Running Rebels, and where Jim founded and was the first president of the UNLV Alumni Association. And whereas James Bilbray married his college sweetheart, Michaeline Mercer, starting a 61-year partnership and family, including children Bridget, Kevin, Aaron, Shannon, sons-in-law Stephen, Noah, Danny, and grandchildren Michaeline, Matthew, Carolyn, Daisy, and Molly. And whereas, after serving in the United States Army and the Nevada Army National Guard, and obtaining his Bachelor of Arts degree in government and a Juris Doctorate from American University in Washington, D.C., Mr. Bilbray began his notable career as a public servant for the people of this state, including as a deputy district attorney and on the Board of Regents of the University of Nevada, in addition to time spent in private practice. And whereas Jim Bilbray was elected to the Nevada State Senate in 1980 and served during 3 regular sessions and 1 special session, including 2 sessions as chair of the Senate Committee on Taxation, where he worked to provide education funding for his alma mater, UNLV. And whereas upon his election in 1986 to the United States House of Representatives, Jim resigned his state Senate seat and spent 8 years as a congressman representing Southern Nevada, during which time he sponsored legislation to permanently preserve thousands of acres at Red Rock Canyon, which now has a plaque honoring him at the Visitors Center, and created the Spring Mountain National Recreation Area. Now therefore be it resolved by the Assembly of the State of Nevada, the Senate concurring, that the members of the Nevada Legislature offer their deepest condolences to Jim's wife, Michaeline, daughter Bridget and her husband Stephen, daughter Erin and her husband Noah, daughter and Assemblywoman Shannon Bilbray Axelrod and her husband Danny, and grandchildren Michaeline, Matthew, Carolyn, Daisy, and Molly. And be it further resolved that the remarkable legacy which Jim Bilbray leaves through his lifetime of passion and service for the Silver State, and Las Vegas in particular, is appreciated and lauded by all residents of this state. And be it further resolved that the Chief Clerk of the Assembly prepare and transmit a copy of this resolution to Jim's beloved wife, Michaeline. And be it further resolved that this resolution becomes effective upon adoption. End of resolution.
Assemblywoman Benitez Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that the Assembly adopt Assembly Concurrent Resolution Number 2.
Assemblywoman Benitez Thompson has moved for the adoption of Assembly Concurrent Resolution Number 2. Remarks?
Yes, thank you so much. I have the Assemblywoman from District 34 here, and I'd like to be able to present her with this proclamation. At this point, I'm going to actually hand the microphone to my colleague from Assembly District 34. She's accepting the proclamation on behalf of her family. I know that we logistically couldn't get them up here in time for this, but I could think of no one better to receive this.
Thank you very much for this honor. It's been a tough couple of months, obviously, but my dad did love this state so much, and he really invoked that into all of his children. Not only Las Vegas, which everyone knows that he loved the Rebels, but he really loved the state of Nevada. So I'm very honored to accept this, and I thank my colleagues very much.
Thank you. We went a little bit out of order. We still have to take the vote, but as the Assemblywoman is making her way back to her seat, I just want to say how incredibly gracious and kind Congressman Bilbray was. Always nice, and of course we go back to judging pumpkins and Halloween parties a long time ago, but always so incredibly graceful and just a kind man. All those in favor of adopting Assembly Concurrent Resolution Number 2, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. The resolution is adopted and order transmitted to the Senate. So the body's aware, we are going to have to stand at ease so that we can receive a message back from the Senate regarding SB 1, and that'll allow for our colleague also to go down to the Senate to also receive the resolution. So please don't leave, and we'll be at ease for just a little bit.
Actually, Mr. Speaker, I was going to ask for a 1-minute recess.
1 minute recess.
And then if you could stay put, pretty please. With all due respect.
So we're in recess, and I've been blessed to serve at both ends of this building. And it may be my last time in this chamber. And I just want to thank you all. You really do love this state. Even when we disagree, we're here to get the people's work done. And I just want to express my appreciation to all of you, especially to my 2 musketeers that are Here, this may be the last time that the Speaker, the Majority Leader, and myself stand in this chamber together. I love you both. You've done wonderful things for the state. And I'm very proud. You know, the Speaker said on one of the videos, the best place to be was between TBT and myself. Well, we kind of liked being there too. It was a lot of fun, a lot of heartache. And because we're in recess, I can say a lot of brown liquor. But I'm just so happy that these last 24 years are ending in this particular place and time. So thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Majority Leader. Thank you to the Assembly members in this chamber for everything you do for this state.
And Mr. Speaker, if I may, with the indulgence of yourself and the body, while we are off of the official record here in recess, as well, it may potentially be my last time standing here. I know none of us are wishing for a special session, so I think we're hoping it might be the last time that we're standing here. And if so, it might mean the last time that I'm serving with you as my speaker. And I've felt so privileged and blessed over this past decade to serve with amazing people, two of them being ones I can say that are not only colleagues but friends. So Assemblywoman Carlton, and man, are you a powerhouse? And I was so scared of you my freshman year. I don't think I've ever been more intimidated by another human being. And the process of getting to know you and becoming a friend is one that I will always savor and treasure. I've learned so much from you. You know everything about everything. You know every process. You know every procedure. Like, yeah, we did that a decade ago. We can do that again now. You've seen it all, and the state is better for it. The state is better because you've been here. The state is better because of your service and the public policy you've committed yourself to. And I thank you so much for everything that you've done and the way that you've served and your mentorship of me as I've come along in this process. And for my speaker, that I've had the pleasure of serving as your majority leader since 2017, but I hope I can say that I've been your friend since 2011. Both elected together in 2010. We met at the 2011 session. Myself being from Northern Nevada, I didn't know you that well, and we didn't get to know each other during the campaign cycle, but I met you in the first couple weeks of that 2011 session. I knew immediately two things. One, you're one of the most intelligent people I've ever come across. And that two, as long as you were part of this dialogue and in this room, everything was going to be okay. I thank you for your endless counsel. I thank you for the hours of policy discussion and deliberation that we've been able to have. As Assemblywoman Carlton said, sometimes with libations involved, but most of the time not. I thank you for your kindness and for how fair you are. I thank you for being certain during the many uncertain times that we've been in this building. You've been steadfast during moments when our legislative world seemed to be spinning and crumbling. I've seen you remain calm in crisis. I've seen you be steadfast in your leadership, an example of what a statesman is supposed to be and what diplomatic conversations ought to be. And the integrity of this building, the integrity of the legislative process, I know means so much to you, and every decision you make reflects that. It's really been, a treasure, the fact that I have gotten to serve with you, and it'll be the highlight of my life that I've gotten to serve with you. And so if this is the last time we do this, I just want to publicly say thank you, friend. Thank you so much.
No, this is for her. Thank you both I've been so fortunate to have bookends and these two Leos that have a tremendous amount of experience and grace, while simultaneously being incredibly fearless. And the state has been fortunate to have you both serve, and the state's going to miss your service. I know you both, and I know you served the state before you were in this body, and you're going to continue to serve the state. And selfishly, most importantly, I got both of your cell phone numbers too. So I appreciate your friendship and look forward to whatever your next adventures are going to be. Thank you, Assemblywoman Carlton, for the shovel. She has a Raider shovel and she hates the Raiders. So she gave it to me. And so I look forward to fighting with you about the Raiders, hopefully next time they win. And Assemblywoman, you know we're going to stay in touch. We never lost touch. And I just look forward to whatever the next adventures are that you all are going to engage in to contribute to this state. Assemblyman Ellison.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I want to thank everybody in this room. This has been one of the most pleasurous things I've ever done. And I'm going to miss you all. We've had challenges. We've lost friends in this body that couldn't come back, or those that passed. And I'll never forget them. And watch some of them that sit in these seats that'll never be filled. I thank God that I was mentored by John Carpenter, which was a good friend, mentor. And I think there's nobody in this building I dislike. Nobody. We have our disagreements, but we're supposed to. But that's what makes this body so great. And I want to thank you all. God bless you.
Any other remarks while we're in recess? All right, again, please stay close, and we're waiting to get, I think, a message from the Senate. The Assembly will come back to order just for the purpose of forming the committee to notify the Senate. So I will now appoint a committee of 3 consisting of Assemblywoman Carlton, Assemblywoman Cohen, and Assemblywoman Tolles to wait upon the Senate and inform them that the Assembly is ready to adjourn sine die. The committee will be about its business, and I will now call the governor and notify him that the Assembly is ready to adjourn sine die. So we will continue to remain at ease. Please ask the committee to come to the Assembly chamber.
Mr. Speaker and members of the Assembly, it's been our pleasure to work with you this special session, and the Senate is ready to adjourn and sign the die and not come back.
Thank you. Let's welcome back our colleagues.
Mr. Speaker, the Senate has been informed that the Assembly has expeditiously accomplished its mission for this special session and is ready to sign it up.
Assemblywoman Benitez Thompson. I think we are.
Are we back from recess?
We'll go back to
Speaker?
messages. I was in a hurry there. We'll go to order business 7, messages from the Senate.
November 16, 2021, to the Honorable the Assembly. I have the honor to inform your Honorable Body that the Senate on this day adopted Assembly Concurrent Resolution Number 2, and I have the honor to inform your Honorable Body that the Senate on this day concurred in Assembly Amendment 2 to Senate Bill 1. Sherry L. Rodriguez, Assistant Secretary of the Senate.
Thank you, Assemblywoman Benitez Thompson.
Mr. Speaker, if you're willing to accept the motion, I move that the 33rd special session of the Assembly of the Legislature of the State of Nevada adjourn, sine die.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. I hereby declare the 33rd special session of the Assembly of the Legislature of the State of Nevada adjourned, sine die.